Hey everyone, welcome to Orb Creations, the show where I build an app, you get to see how I do it, and you get the source code in the description. Today we're building a to-do app. This app is going to allow the user to create and delete items. We're going to let the user edit item contents using the content editable attribute. To start, our to-do list UI will basically be divided into two parts. A header, where there will be buttons that the user can use to take actions, and a body section, where the to-do items will be listed. In the header, we'll want some interactive elements to let the user select all elements, create a new item, and delete selected items. We'll deal with the handlers for these elements after we figure out the body section. The body section will iterate over our to-do items, so let's go create those first. If you've seen the other Svelte videos, this store pattern should look familiar to you. First, we'll define an interface for each item, which consists of a unique ID and the to-do contents. We also want to have a default in place so that we can reset items when needed. Our items will be stored in a writable store, which will initialize to the default. When the page loads, we want to try to load saved items from local storage. This allows to-do items to get saved into the browser so the user can see their notes even if they turn off their computer and come back later. If there are no saved items or the saved items are corrupt, we'll load the default. Finally, we'll add a subscription handler to save items into local storage each time they're updated. Back in our app, we'll iterate over the array of items from the store and destructure out the ID and the to-do item. Each item is going to have a checkbox so that the user can select and delete groups of items, an editable div that holds the to-do value and also allows the user to edit it, and a delete button so the user can quickly delete a single item. When the checkbox is clicked, we want to select the ID. We'll define a selected array that holds the IDs of the selected items, and the select handler will just append the ID to that array if it is checked, and filter out the ID of the array if it is unchecked. The checkbox will then inspect the selected array to see if the ID corresponding to its item is part of the array. If it is, then the checkbox will be checked. When the user clicks the content to edit it, we want to highlight all the text inside the editor. Then, when the user enters an input, we want to update that particular item. The update handler will just map over the item store and append a new value to the item with the corresponding ID. When the user presses the Enter key on their keyboard, we want to blur editing because we don't want to have multi-line to-do items here. The handler for that will just check if the pressed key is Enter and blur if so. In the header, we want to include a checkbox to allow the user to select all the notes. We'll bind its value to an all-selected Boolean variable. We want to update selected whenever all selected flips from true to false or vice versa. So we'll use a reactive block to accomplish that. In addition to this, we also need to add state updaters in a few places in the code that reset all selected when certain actions occur. For example, if the user deletes the selected items, we want to set all selected to false because there are no more items selected. Finally, we'll want to have handlers for creating items and for deleting multiple selected items. Creating an item just involves prepending a new to-do item with a new unique ID and a temporary placeholder for the to-do contents. To delete many selected items, we'll loop through the selected array and use the delete one handler to delete each one individually. Once that's all done, all that's left to do is to make it pretty. And there you have it, a to-do app. The app is currently hosted on Orb at todo.orbapps.com, link in the description. All of the code that goes into this app is linked in the description. Be sure to check out these other videos on your screen right now. YouTube doesn't tell me ahead of time what they are, but I'm sure they're great. If you want to stay up to date on new apps we're building and coding tips and tricks, be sure to hammer that subscribe button and follow us everywhere else. Until next time, remember, a list won't help your procrastination.